Hello, third graders. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about comparing and contrasting. So what you're going to need today is just your body, your eyes, and your brain. Nothing else. So let's jump right in. So let's start with our I can statement. So our I can statement says, I can compare and contrast, tell the difference and similarities in two different stories. So let's talk about what these terms mean. What does compare and contrast mean? So compare means to tell how things are alike. So notice this little picture over here. You see the fox and the deer. So if we're talking about how they're alike, we could say the fox and the deer both live in the forest. Whereas if we're talking about contrast, we're telling about how things are different. So if you look at this picture down here, there's a bear and an owl. If we're talking about how they're different, we could say a bear is a mammal, where an owl is a bird. If we're comparing them, we could say they're both brown. So that's what compare and contrast means. So comparing is just telling how things are alike, and contrast is just telling how things are different. Pretty simple, huh? So to compare and contrast two things, we often use Venn diagrams. You're probably somewhat familiar with these, but we're just going to go over them in a quick review, just so everyone is on the same page of what a Venn diagram is. So if we're comparing and contrasting while using a Venn diagram, we're going to have two circles here. So in this circle, you're going to have everything that is attainable to the first thing you're comparing. So if we were talking about the fox, for example, we would put everything that just the fox has in this area. This is the differences. This is the contrast. So I could say a fox is red in here. If we're comparing it to, say, an owl, we could say the owl is brown. They're not similar, they're different, and so we're going to put it in their own bubble. So you'd have the bubble for the first story or animal or character or whatever you're comparing and contrasting, and then the bubble for your second one. And then if you notice here in the middle, the two bubbles intersect. So this is where you're going to put the similarities. This is where you're going to put the things that both of these items that you're comparing have. So if we're talking about the fox and the owl, we could say they both have two eyes or they both have 2 feet. Oh no, a fox has four. Let's see. They both have ears. They both have ears. So something, whatever makes them similar, you'd put in this middle one. And then what makes them different, you put in these outside ones. So I found another example for you guys. I didn't make this myself, but I thought it was a pretty cool example of a Venn diagram that somebody else made. So here they're comparing and contrasting films, but you can compare and contrast pretty much anything. But in this one, they're comparing and contrasting films. They compared Harry Potter to Superman. So notice how you have your bubbles here, and then this is the Harry Potter bubble, and this is the Superman. So if you look in this one, this is the differences. This is what is only happens or only is pertainable to Harry Potter. So it's located in England. It's based on the books by J.K. Rowling. It's produced by the Warner Brothers Pictures. It has 8 movies in the series. It includes magic, and it's a young adult genre, and it was released in the 2000s. Whereas Superman was located in the United States. It's based on comic books. It's produced in various studios over time. It has 12 movies in different series. It's a superhero genre, and it was released between the 1950s and 2000s. So see how you're pointing out things that are only pertainable to that one item that you're comparing and contrasting. And then the middle here, this is what both of them have. So they're both internationally popular. They both went from print to film. So they started off as a book or a comic and then were then after made into a film. They're both a fantasy genre and they're both good versus evil theme. So you have the differences, similarities, and then the differences. So I did this on my own, I compared and contrast two different versions of the story Cinderella. So I started with this one, which is just the regular old Cinderella that most of us know, and is by Ruth Sanderson. And then I also read Juana, Juna, which is Among Cinderella by Jewel Coburn and Tiza Lee. So I compared and contrast these two stories. I read them on my own, and then I made my own Venn diagram. So you guys can see here what I did. So in the regular Cinderella, she lived in a house in the city. She had two vain and jealous stepsisters. She had glass slippers. Her mother died when she was a child, and her father would not stand up and let her stepmother and sisters, and he would let her stepmother and sisters be mean to her. She had magical birds that helped her, and she went to a ball in a magical horse and carriage with a beautiful ball gown. Whereas in the other Cinderella story, the Mung one, she lived in a small Mung village. She had only one vain and jealous stepsister. Her mother turned into a cow, which is pretty crazy. She turned into a cow in order to help her family, and then her family got greedy. Well, her father got greedy and he married somebody else. And then her mother died as a cow of heartbreak. So that's how this one is way different from the regular Cinderella we know, right? And then this Cinderella, she had a magical thread that came from her mom, the cow. In this one, her father died unexpectedly. And then in this one, she went to a festival rather than a ball in a magical skirt and blouse embroidered with beautiful, elegant needlework. And then in both of them, they both had an evil stepmother. They were both forced to do all the housework. They both had a fairy godmother. They both met a well-off man at an event. They both lost their shoe, and they both fell in love and lived happily ever after. So they had some similarities and some differences. So this is the comparison, and then here's the contrast. This is where they're different. So the Cinderella was much different than the Monk Cinderella, but there were some similarities. All right, so let's go back to our I can statement for the day. So remember that I can compare and contrast, which is telling the similarities and differences in two different stories. Now, you're not going to do this today, but I want you to start thinking about the similarities and differences, or compare and contrast between is an orange shortage coming in the case of a missing orange. Now, you should have read both of those stories by now, so just start thinking about what are some similarities and what are some differences, because you're going to be comparing and contrasting those tomorrow. And then for your reading homework today, all you have to do is read 20 minutes. You already watched this video, so you're done with that. And then the only other thing you have to do is have an amazing, wonderful, fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.